considered very wrong in a social setting.
I
What
really
happens
don't
then?
believe in punishment. You see, when somebody does what you call evil or social evil, they're ignorant, and I believe that they can be brought around through proper communication, and you don't give up on anybody, and you try to have them see but maybe they.
So you have faith in humanity's.
Well, you see, 1 second. You see, social good may not be. This is when somebody kills somebody else. What he's doing is he's acting from his. He may be acting from his inner conversation, and his inner conversation is coming in conflict with the with society's inner conversation.
Right.
Okay.
And that happens.
And so well, it does. So when it happens, society will kill you or punish you. Okay. The point is.
Does it have the right to do that?
Right? Might makes right.
Oh, so there's no right except for might, then, in your book?
Of course. There's no right. We don't have absolute truth. We do not have absolute. The absolute truth to have a absolute
relative right. How about relative right?
Might makes right. Society has the power to grab the guy and put him on the electric chair. Society does it. It's not a question of right or wrong or relative or not relative. It's they have the power. They send the
collective resistance, passive resistance. You can resist. Why don't you? Why about that?
Who can resist what?
Society can resist the dictates of a government if they decide to. And there's such a thing as revolutions and so forth and so on. So might does not necessarily have to make right.
Oh yeah, it always does. I mean, I was just looking at Mexican history where Porfirio Diaz was in control of Mexico for 30 years, and all of a sudden, Senor Madero says, "Hey, you're a dictator. We want you out of there," and he starts a revolution. But he didn't win the revolution because he's just Senor Madero. He won the revolution because he had the power.
But was that a popular grassroots revolution like the one I'm talking about?
It turned out to be, yeah. But it was won through violence and power.
That's interesting, because you seem to indicate in your book that no real substantial change can occur without violence. Any kind of earth shift in thinking requires violence, ultimately, sooner or later. And you even leave open the possibility that the development and...
Where did I say? I don't even get into that. Where?
Well, I can't find the citation right now, but I'm sure that we've discussed it in the... I know it's in the book, and I'm sure we've discussed it in the previous interview.
Oh, in other words, in analyzing a social change, that I said that
nothing extremely substantially changes extremely substantially without violence, in one form or another, because there are forces of conservatism that want to keep the status quo, obviously.
Yeah, unless you have a power greater than theirs, that's where, again, might makes right. Unless you have a power greater than theirs that can overcome. But you take a man like Gandhi, a man like Martin Luther King, these incredible human beings that made massive change in society Gandhi got the English out of India without violence. Martin Luther King made massive social change in the attitudes of Americans without violence. So we have examples of people who...
Well, both of them actually use violence. Both of them use the violence of their enemies to show them up and destroy them.
You know what we're talking about.
Them, but you
know what I'm talking about in terms of using violence.
To attack them.
I'm talking about you taking a gun and shooting somebody. We're talking about that. They did not do that. And these are wonderful examples of superhuman beings that could cause these kinds of changes without going to the gun.
But they use the other people's violence, their oppressors, their opponents' violence, to serve themselves.
But they did not pick up the gun, and this is what we're talking about.
Right, exactly. Mm. Are all ethics relative, in your opinion?
Unless you have an absolute good, everything is relative.
So is
until you now we're going to see the importance of absolute truth. Unless, now 1 second, in the Catholic Church, they have an absolute truth. All religions, Mohammedanism, they have absolute truth. So in those religions, you have absolute ethics. Of course, in the world of Copernicus, where there is no absolute, then everything becomes relative. Because Copernicus is basically a process of attaining absolute truth, with the recognition that the absolute truth is not yet there. So in a sense, what I'm talking about is a process which begins with a consciousness of the universe and a losing of the identity.
You told me last time that Copernicus will never believe he is absolutely right. Hence, he will never kill for his view of the truth. What is the, aside from the killing part, which you associated with belief in absolute rightness, what is the use of having an absolute truth if you can't believe absolutely in it? And you've reserved so much room for skepticism and the possibility that you're wrong, or that there may not even be an absolute truth. Then what's the use of it? If you can't believe in it, what is the use of it? And
I think you could say Copernicus believes in absolute truth. Copernicus believes in the existence of
an absolute reality.
Yes, I think Copernicus believes in the existence of absolute truth.
Isn't that a matter of faith at this point, though?
Yes.
So you have faith?
In absolute truth.
In absolute truth.
Yes.
Okay.
But faith means you could be wrong.
Right.
Faith is a belief. Belief does not know. I believe, that means I do not know.
I guess there's different kinds of faith, probably, because I'm sure there are.
No, faith is a word. That means the same thing in every religion, in every language. Faith is
belief.
Belief. It's not a knowledge.
But if you're convinced that your belief is absolute, then you must believe it absolutely, right? What does that lead you to do? Does that lead you to
It leads me to want to grow closer to the understanding of that truth and attainment of that truth. See, in religions, our large religions that are dominating the world, you don't have to do that because they have the truth and they bring it down to you and they give it to you. You don't have to go looking for anything because you have this religion that has this truth.